a slip knot and chain 62. Next, once you get 62 chains, since this is size small, but if you want your chain to be big, you can add more chains, and if you want your cardigan to be small, you can add less chains. So next we are going to make a herringbone double crochet. To make a herringbone double crochet, yarn over, insert the hook into this second chain from the hook, yarn over, pull through 3 loops on the hook. Now pull through the second loop on the hook like this, yarn over, pull through the last 2 loops. Chain 1, skip 1 chain, herringbone double crochet into the next chain, chain 1, skip 1 chain, herringbone double crochet into the next chain, and just continue doing that all the way until end of this row. I'll meet you once I reach end of the row to show you the next step. At the end here, chain 1, turn your work. That turning chain 1 does not count as a stitch. Next, make a herringbone double crochet into this very first stitch from the hook. Chain 1, skip the chain 1 space. Herringbone double crochet on top of the next stitch, chain 1 again, and just continue doing that all the way until end of this row. Herringbone double crochet on top of each stitch, skipping chain 1 space, and you must also chain 1 before you move on to the next stitch all the way until end of the row. And that's just the same pattern we are going to do for this entire back panel. So continue doing that all the way until end of the row. I will meet you to show the next step. Chain 1, turn your work. Now repeat the previous row all the way until your back panel measures at least 18 to 19 inches long. If you want it to be a cropped cardigan, then you can make it less than those inches, or if you want it to be long, then you can add more rows to make it long. But in my case, I'm only going to make it until it measures 18 inches long. So continue doing that. I will meet you once I'm done with my measurements. Here's my back panel, and it measures exactly 18 inches long. So for the front panel, one panel I have already done it off camera, so the other one I'm going to do it on camera. So for front panels, there are 2 separate panels, and this one I have already done it off camera, and I'm just going to show you how I have made this to make the second front panel. Make a slip knot and chain 32. Once you get 32 chains, now make a herringbone double crochet into the second chain from the hook. Yarn over, insert the hook into the second chain from the hook. Yarn over, pull through 3 loops on the hook. Just pull through the second loop on the hook like this. Pull through the last 2 loops on the hook. Chain 1, skip the next chain. Herringbone double crochet into the next chain. Chain 1, skip 1 chain. Herringbone into the next chain, and just continue doing that all the way until end of this row by skipping 1 chain, chain 1, and herringbone into the next chain. I'll meet you end of this row to show you the next step. At the end of the row, just chain 1 and turn your work. Next, herringbone double crochet into this very first stitch from the hook. Chain 1 as usual, skip this chain 1 space and herringbone double crochet on top of the next stitch. Chain 1 and gate, and just continue doing that all the way until end of this row. And remember that turning chain 1 does not count as a stitch, so and always you must start in the very first stitch from the hook. At the end, just chain 1 and turn your work. Now repeat the previous row until your project measures at least 8 inches long. Because the next step we are going to decrease. So just continue doing that until it measures at least 8 inches long. Then I'll make sure to come show you the next step how I'll be decreasing. Like this panel I have decreased like this. At the end, make sure you have chained 1, turn your work. Next we are going to decrease. This part I have already decreased off camera. I have already done it off camera. Now this one I'm going to do it on camera. Since this side we have decreased this side, which is the same as this one, so which means for this one we're going to start decreasing on the other side. Just continue the pattern. So here at the end, since this is the side we are going to decrease, do not chain 1, just make a herringbone double crochet into this last stitch. Skip this chain 1 space and do not chain 1. Chain 1, turn your work. Next row, we are actually going to work these 2 stitches together. Yarn over inside the hook into this very first stitch from the hook, yarn over, pull through 3 loops on the hook, pull through the middle stitch, yarn over inside the hook into the next stitch, do the same, 3 loops on the hook, yarn over and pull through all 3 loops. And you can mark this previous row as your first row of decrease, just to keep track of your work. Chain 1, now just continue the pattern all the way until the end. next row, we are going to repeat the previous row, the first row of decrease. Once you reach here, do not chain one. To decrease, just yarn over, skip this chain one space, herringbone into this last stitch. Chain one, then you work. Now you're going to work these two stitches together. Yarn over, insert the hook into this first stitch, yarn over, pull through like this, 3 loops on the hook, pull through the middle loop on the hook, yarn over again, insert the hook into this next stitch, yarn over, pull through like this, 4 loops on the hook, pull through this first loop, through the second loop on the hook, 3 loops on the hook, yarn over, pull through all 3 loops. Chain one, and I'll just continue the pattern all the way until the end. And that's just how we are going to decrease this part. Here, just to continue alternating between the chain one. We have just to continue alternating between those 2 rows for decreasing until this part, decreased part, measures at least 5 inches long. This is how your work must start to look like when you are decreasing. At the end here to decrease, when you are coming from the normal side, always do not chain one here, just herringbone double crochet into this last stitch like this. And when you are working from the decreased part, always work these 2 stitches together. And here just to continue alternating between those 2 rows until this part measures at least 5 inches long. Once you are done decreasing, make sure this part measures at least 5 inches long. So next we're just going to make the normal herringbone double crochet without decrease. Make sure your last stitch have a total, make sure your last decrease row must have a total of 20 stitches including the chain 1 spaces. So next we're just going to make the normal herringbone double crochet all the way straight without decreasing, which means next we're going to work like this other part all the way up like this without decreasing. No more decrease until this normal part measures also at least 5 inches long. Once satisfied with the length of your front panel, just chain 1 and cut off the yarn. Next is joining. To join, make sure you are laying down flat your back panel with the wrong side facing down and the right side facing up. Both front panels' wrong sides must be facing up. With your shoulders using those yarn tails you have left off. Start into those first loops at the edge of your project and make sure you are grabbing both loops on each panel. Repeat the same thing on the other side.